Growing older teaches us lessons that no book or classroom ever could. It teaches us about love, patience, forgiveness, and yes, about regret. When I was younger, I believed I had time, plenty of time to fix the small cracks that appeared in my health, my relationships, and my plans. I thought, I will deal with it later. After all, there was always another day. But what I did not realize was how quickly those small cracks would widen after 70. The things I brushed off or avoided did not stay small. They grew, they became burdens heavier than I ever expected. Some days I find myself wishing I could go back in time, sit my younger self down and say, please do not wait. Today, I want to share with you the 5 biggest things I regret not fixing before turning 70. They are honest, sometimes painful lessons, but they come from a heart that hopes you can avoid the same mistakes. Stay with me until the very end, because the last regret is the one I wish I could go back and change the most. It is the one that still lingers in my heart to this day. If you are finding these reflections meaningful, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps us grow this community of wisdom and support. Also, I would love to know, how old are you today, and what is one thing you wish you had done differently earlier in life? Share your story in the comments below. Let us inspire each other. Point 1. Ignoring my physical strength. When you are younger, strength is something you take for granted. You move without thinking, lift without effort, and recover from small aches without a second thought. I never imagined that something as simple as standing up from a chair or carrying a bag of groceries could one day feel like a challenge. But after 70, everything changes more quickly than you expect. At first, the signs were subtle. I noticed I was getting a little slower on my morning walks. Stairs that I used to climb easily now left me slightly out of breath. I told myself it was normal, just part of aging. I thought, it is nothing to worry about. I am still doing fine. But inside my body, a silent battle was beginning. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, but what I did not realize is how much faster it happens when you are not actively fighting to preserve it. Every year after 70, the muscles shrink a little more, the joints stiffen a little faster, and the body becomes a little more vulnerable. It does not happen all at once. It happens one unnoticed step at a time. I think about Joe, a neighbor of mine who was a few years older. Joe was always active in his 60s. He loved gardening and could be seen mowing his own lawn well into his late 60s. But around 71, he stopped doing those small activities. A little knee pain here, a little stiffness there, and before long, Joe was spending most of his days inside, sitting more than moving. By 74, he needed a walker just to get around his home. It was heartbreaking to see how quickly he lost his independence, and it started with ignoring his strength when the first signs appeared. I made the same mistake. I thought I had time. I thought I could rebuild my strength whenever I decided to. But rebuilding lost muscle after 70 is much harder than maintaining it. Every bit of strength lost made it harder to stay active, and every day of inactivity made the next day more difficult. It is not just about muscles either. When you lose strength, you lose balance, you lose confidence, and falls become a real danger. A simple misstep can turn into a broken hip or worse. Many seniors do not realize that falls are one of the leading causes of injury, and death after 70, and weakness is a major cause behind most falls. If I could go back, I would have made strength a daily priority. Not extreme exercise, not punishing workouts, but gentle, consistent movement. Walking every day, light resistance exercises, stretching in the morning, keeping the muscles alive, the joints flexible, and the heart strong. Because strength after 70 is not just about feeling good, it is about surviving. It is about keeping your independence, your dignity, and your ability to live life on your own terms. Even now, it is not too late to start. The body is incredibly resilient when you give it what it needs. You do not have to train like an athlete. You just have to move a little more each day. Please, if you are listening to my story, do not wait until you feel weak to start caring about your strength. It is one of the most precious gifts you still have, and once it is gone, it is very hard to get back. Let us now move to point 2, where I share another regret that weighed heavily on me as the years passed. Point 2. Avoiding honest financial planning. Money was never something I wanted to think about too deeply. For most of my life, I worked hard, paid my bills, saved when I could, and figured everything would somehow fall into place when I got older. After all, how much could I really need once I retired? I believed that a modest pension, a little savings, and some help from family would be enough. I was wrong. What no one warned me about was how unpredictable life after 70 can be. Medical expenses I never expected, home repairs I could not put off, inflation that chipped away at my savings faster than I ever imagined. And beyond the money itself was the fear, the constant, heavy fear that maybe, just maybe, I had not prepared enough. That fear can keep you awake at night. It can drain your joy during the very years that are supposed to be your reward for a life of hard work. I think about Margaret, an old friend of mine who seemed to have everything figured out. She was careful with her money, never extravagant, and always believed she would have a comfortable retirement. But when her health began to decline in her mid-70s, the bills piled up fast. She needed specialized care, and Medicare did not cover nearly as much as she had assumed it would. Within 2 years, Margaret went from feeling financially secure to feeling trapped, worried about every dollar, and needing to make painful decisions about her living situation. Watching her struggle made me realize that honest financial planning is not just about having money, it is about having freedom. Freedom to choose the care you want. Freedom to stay in your own home if you wish. Freedom to live without being a burden on your children or worrying about every unexpected expense that comes your way. And yet, like so many others, I had avoided the difficult conversations. I had not sat down with a financial advisor. I had not budgeted for long-term care or unexpected medical emergencies. I had simply hoped for the best. Hope is not a plan. Hope is not a strategy. If I could go back, I would have faced those uncomfortable realities head-on. I would have asked hard questions. What if I live longer than I think? What if I need expensive medical care? What if my home needs repairs I can no longer handle myself? What if my family cannot help me financially? Preparing for these possibilities would not have taken away my worries completely, but it would have given me power over them. It would have given me peace of mind. The truth is, financial planning after 70 is not about chasing wealth. It is about protecting your dignity. It is about making sure that when life throws its inevitable curveballs, you are ready to catch them with grace instead of panic. Today, if you are nearing 70 or already past it, I urge you, review your savings honestly. Plan for medical emergencies. Understand your insurance. Keep an emergency fund you do not touch unless you truly need it. Think not just about today's needs, but what life might ask of you 5, 10, or even 15 years from now. Facing the truth might feel uncomfortable at first, but living with the consequences of avoidance is far more painful. Money will never buy happiness, but it can buy peace, freedom, and dignity, and those are priceless after 70. Now, let us move to point 3, where I share a regret that touches the heart even more deeply. The quiet, painful loss of friendship. Point 3, letting friendships fade away. When you are younger, friendships feel almost effortless. You meet people at work, through your children, at church, in your neighborhood. Life is busy, but somehow you still find time for coffee chats, phone calls, dinners, and small celebrations that tie your hearts together without you even realizing it. But something dangerous happens. As you grow older, life starts thinning those connections out. People move away, illness comes, schedules clash. And slowly, almost without noticing, you stop reaching out. You tell yourself, I will call them next week. Then a month goes by. Then a year. I made the mistake of believing that true friendships would survive on their own, without effort. I thought that old bonds would stay strong even if I did not nurture them. But friendships are like gardens. If you do not water them, they do not stay the same, they wither. I think about Helen, one of my dearest friends from my younger years. We raised our children together, spent holidays at each other's homes, and could talk for hours about everything and nothing. But after 65, life pulled us in different directions. Health appointments, family obligations, new routines. There was always a good excuse. The months slipped by until it became awkward to call. And when I finally did, the conversation was polite, but distant two people who had once shared their hearts now struggling to fill the silence. Loneliness after 70 does not announce itself loudly. It creeps in during the long afternoons when no one calls. It sneaks into the empty chairs at the dinner table. It shows up in the way you start talking to the television or the plants just to hear a voice in the room. And the danger is not just emotional. Loneliness after 70 has been linked to higher risks of memory decline, heart disease, depression, and even early death. Our bodies and our minds are wired for connection. Without it, everything starts to shut down faster. If I could go back, I would have fought harder to keep my friendships alive. I would have made those awkward calls. I would have scheduled lunch dates, even when it seemed like a hassle. I would have sent little notes, little reminders that said, "I am still here. You still matter to me." Because friendships are not lost all at once. They are lost in small silences. In the decision not to call, in the choice to stay silent when you could have reached out. If you are listening today, I urge you think of one friend you have not spoken to in a while. Call them. Write them a letter. Invite them for coffee, even if it feels awkward at first. Friendships are living things. They need to be fed with time, attention, and love. And when you tend to them, they will repay you with laughter, comfort, and the irreplaceable joy of being remembered. It is never too late to rebuild what was lost, but the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Now, let us move to point 4, where I will share another mistake that had serious consequences: putting off my medical checkups. Point 4. Putting off medical checkups. There is a strange comfort in pretending everything is fine. When we feel a little ache, a little fatigue, a little something unusual, it is easy to tell ourselves, "It is nothing. I will be fine." I leaned on that comfort far too often after turning 65. And it cost me more than I ever expected. I used to dread doctor visits, the waiting rooms, the tests, the possibility of hearing something I did not want to hear. It felt easier, safer even, to simply stay away. I told myself, if something is really wrong, I will know, I will feel it. But the truth is, many of the most serious conditions that strike after 70 do not scream. They whisper. I think about Frank, a man from my community who lived with a quiet strength. He was the type of person who brushed off every cough, every dizzy spell, every small sign that his body was trying to tell him something. By the time he finally agreed to a checkup, his heart disease was far advanced. It was not that it happened overnight. It was that he had missed the early warnings because he was too afraid to face them. I made a similar mistake. By the time I went in for a full checkup, after months of telling myself I was fine, they found issues that had been building quietly for years. Blood pressure creeping higher. Cholesterol slowly thickening my arteries. A small issue in my kidneys that could have been managed earlier, but now demanded serious attention. The regret hit hard. Not because the doctors were unkind, but because I realized how much of the damage could have been prevented if I had simply faced the truth sooner. There is a myth we sometimes cling to after 70 that ignorance is bliss. But it is not. Ignorance is fear wrapped in false comfort. And fear costs you dearly when it keeps you from taking action. The truth is, facing your health head-on is not about inviting bad news. It is about protecting your future. Early detection saves lives, plain and simple. Small issues, when caught early, can be managed easily, often with minimal changes. But left unchecked, they grow into monsters that take away your independence, your vitality, and even your life. If I could speak to my younger self, I would say this: go to the doctor. Get your checkups, even when you feel fine. Get your screenings, even if you dread the results. Because information is power. And when you know the truth early, you give yourself the best possible chance to write your story on your own terms. Here are a few simple habits I wish I had adopted sooner. An annual physical with full blood work. Regular screenings for heart health, bone density, and cancer. Open conversations with doctors without shame or fear. A mindset that views medical care not as a last resort, but as a vital tool for staying strong and independent. Today, I keep my appointments like sacred dates on my calendar. Not because I live in fear, but because I choose to live in strength. Because the best way to honor this precious life is to take care of the vessel that carries it. If you have been avoiding the doctor, please reconsider. Your future self will thank you. Your family will thank you. And most importantly, you will live with fewer regrets and greater peace of mind. Now, let us move to point 5, perhaps the most personal and difficult regret of all, neglecting the healing of my own heart. Point 5, neglecting emotional healing. When you are busy building a life, raising a family, working hard, meeting responsibilities, it is easy to tuck away old hurts. You tell yourself you are too busy to dwell on the past. You convince yourself that wounds will heal with time, even if you never speak of them again. But the truth is, time does not heal all wounds. Time merely hides them until the day they begin to show up in other ways. In bitterness, in loneliness, in a quiet sadness you cannot explain. For most of my life, I carried old emotional injuries like invisible weights. A falling out with a sibling. Words spoken in anger that were never forgiven. Regrets about opportunities missed, apologies never made, goodbyes left unfinished. I thought burying the feelings made me strong. I thought pushing them down meant moving forward. But after 70, those buried feelings became harder to ignore. There is a quiet hour that comes often after you retire, after your children are grown, after life slows down. And in that hour, old memories rise up. Faces you have not seen in years visit you in your mind. Words you wish you had said echo louder. And the heart, no longer distracted by busyness, demands your attention. I think about Robert, a man I knew from a small community group. He had not spoken to his brother in over 30 years after a disagreement that seemed so important at the time. He thought he had moved on. But in his final years, Robert spoke often of that broken bond, of the sadness that lingered like a shadow he could never quite shake. The opportunity to heal had passed, and it weighed heavily on him. I made similar mistakes. There were people I loved who I let slip away because pride got in the way. There were pains I never addressed, conversations I postponed until it was too late. And the regret was sharper than I ever imagined it could be. Emotional healing matters just as much as physical health after 70. Because a heart burdened by unresolved pain affects every part of your life. It affects your sleep, your relationships, your ability to find joy, and even your physical resilience. Studies have shown that chronic emotional distress can weaken the immune system, increase inflammation, and shorten lifespan. If I could go back, I would have made healing a priority long before reaching 70. I would have reached out to those I had hurt and to those who had hurt me. I would have said the difficult words, "I am sorry." I would have forgiven people, not because they always deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I would have spoken to a counselor when needed, without shame. I would have allowed myself to grieve losses properly, instead of stuffing the sadness away. I would have tended to my emotional wounds the way you tend to a physical injury, with care, with attention, and with the belief that healing is possible. And I would have realized that healing is not about pretending nothing bad ever happened. It is about making peace with your story, so that the future can be lived without chains around your heart. If you are listening today, I urge you, do not neglect your emotional well-being. If there is someone you need to forgive, begin that journey. If there is someone you need to reach out to, make that call. If there is hurt inside you that you have carried too long, give yourself permission to heal. Because a heart set free is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself as you grow older. Now, let us move into the final reflection, where I will share the most important lesson all these regrets have taught me. Looking back over the years, I have come to understand something deeply. Most regrets are not born from the big dramatic moments. They are born from the small things we ignore, the gentle warnings we dismiss, the opportunities we tell ourselves we will take someday. Regret is not about hating the life you lived. It is about recognizing that with just a little more courage, a little more honesty, a little more intention, you could have lived even fuller, even stronger, even lighter. But here is the beauty in all of this. It is never too late to choose differently. Whether you are 60, 70, 80, or beyond, the power to make meaningful changes still lives inside you. You can build strength. You can secure your future. You can reach out and rebuild old friendships. You can care for your health with wisdom. You can heal your heart and find peace, even now. The future is not fixed. It is still unfolding with every small decision you make today. Thank you for listening to my story and for giving yourself the gift of awareness. Because awareness is the first step to living without regret. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you found even one piece of this message helpful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you care about. Also, I would love to hear from you which of these 5 regrets touched your heart the most. Leave a comment below and let us support and inspire each other through the lessons we have learned. I cannot wait to read your stories. Until next time, take care of yourself, body, mind, and heart.